minutes. Motion by Judy. Do I have a second?
Yeah.
Second by Tipton. Poll the members, please.
Ballard. Barnes.
Aye.
Judy.
Aye.
McCormick. Abstain. Pruitt.
Yes, ma'am.
Tipton.
Aye.
Trimble. Wilson.
Financial reports.
There was a check in here for an ice machine. I take that was a yearly rental.
No, I think that was
21,
third down
7,
the street
21.
department, I believe. Is that correct, Steve?
No, that is yearly rental, maintenance is included with the rent.
That's what I thought I was.
We pay the first fiscal year every year.
When we have a bunch of sewer trouble. We have some sewer trouble on,
That's the police department.
okay.
We had quite a bit of sewer trouble down there. Nothing personal. Okay. Moving on, item number 6, resolution making the application for law enforcement protection program. This is what enables us to apply for grants to get extra bulletproof vests for the police department. Motion by Barnes, second by Tipton. Poll the members, please.
Ballard. Barnes. Judy.
Aye.
McCormick. Pruitt.
Yes,
Tipton.
Aye.
Trimble. Wilson.
Item number 7, Ms. Romanesco.
Well, thanks for your time again tonight. I'm here to talk about that water and sewer line that we talked about a couple of months ago. We have found a source that will do, came to you then and told you that funding sources wouldn't pay because we run a short time frame, and the time frames to get those funding sources were like 6 months and out. So we came upon a program, the Economic Development Bond Financing, and they have agreed to basically reimburse us kind of a very, as Crystal has been, I've spoken with Mayor briefly and Crystal a little more in detail. It's a little convoluted, so I'll try to explain it the best way I can. Normally in this scenario, you would apply for these funds before the water and sewer line was put in, and the company would be on, if the company is, on the hook for the jobs created, and they put up a piece of collateral. In this instance, because it's after the fact, we don't have any way to stronghold arm the company into putting up the collateral. So the fiscal court has agreed to put up a letter of credit for the amount of the bonds, which is $75,000. But because the fiscal court has put up the letter of credit, they cannot be the applicant for the money. Crystal, correct me if I'm misstating this, as you know, as we heard it. So they asked, but a government entity has to be, and it cannot be the industrial authority, and don't ask me why. We're quasi-governmental as can be, or by statute, but it has to be the city, they said. So this is not putting you on the hook for anything except to be the applicant. The money will go directly to the company. We're going to do an agreement between us and the company that they will then take the money and give it back to the industrial authority so we can pay off our debt where we're borrowing money for the water lines and water and sewer lines. If the jobs are not created, then there's a pro rata share. They have to create 34 and maintain them for 4 years. And the formula is it's 75,000 divided by 34 divided by 4, and each year they would pay a penalty per job for the jobs not created. They're not going to pay that. That's the agreement. It's going to come out of the letter of credit if they don't pay. If they don't, that letter of credit money will then come to you, but you have to be in agreement. We have to get all this legally done, but you all have to be in agreement to give it back to the county.
Well, basically, what he said was, if the money comes back to us, the state has to approve
Yes.
wherever it goes,
And
because
it
it
has
has
to
to
be
be
used
for
for
economic development. So if the state were to
So you can
approve
turn around
it,
and give it back to the industrial
Right.
authority basically and let us use it for economic
Right.
development.
Right.
That's correct. She's absolutely right. I have copies of the application. I do have it signed by the company. I'll give you a copy, Crystal. They brought it to questions today, and they have agreed. Their president is in Germany, and his English is German English. And he first thought they were on the hook for the penalty, and they weren't really in agreement. But after we went back to them, and I explained to them again that they were going to be on the hook. The state probably going to go to them and ask for the money, but the letter of credit is going to stand good for it. They didn't put up the letter of credit. So I'm asking you, I guess, and you have to pass this resolution that I think Crystal has prepared. We have to have a resolution to go with this application. Now, I know your next question is, do I still have to give the $10,000 that we approved at the last meeting? The whole project was $112,000 and change. The water company is putting in 24. The industrial authority can still put in a portion, and I don't, maybe 6. That's 30. Out of the 112, that leaves what, 82? This 75. So yes, I will be coming to you. It may not be for the whole 10, but I will be sending, splitting that difference between you all and the county. That makes sense. So between 75 and 82 is what, $7,000?
Makes sense every time you see on one.
I'm trying to get a little bit back. I'm trying to get some from the state this time rather than you all. These ED bonds are forgiven, by the way, after 4 years that they've maintained and they've created and maintained the number of jobs, they're forgiven.
This letter of credit, is it automatically renewed each year? Or is this,
They put it up for the term, yes.
it's for the term,
4
it's
years.
not a year? Okay. Are you comfortable with everything you've read?
I was there when the guy from the state called, I think she called him 3 or 4 different times while we were down there. I know that Kevin Cockrell is more familiar with these EDG bonds or whatever. And initially, he had several questions, but during the process, he seemed comfortable. And I'm comfortable in the sense that the city's not required, and I asked the question, I said, even though it's out in the county, is it okay that the city applies because it's not in the city limits? The state said, yes, that's fine. They said the city is not on the hook in any shape or form because if the company doesn't pay it, the letter of credit is cashed. And then we can't, as I said, we can't even make any decision on how it's used after the money is paid back. If there's any money left, the state has to approve whatever we do with it. So we don't have a free-for-all. It looks like we're very regulated. The process is very regulated. So, and the guy at the state, he explained it pretty well. He said it is a little odd how it has to be done because usually the county would be the one that would apply because there's usually no.
Normally the company would put up
credit.
the account, and the county would be the applicant, but in this case, that's not happening.
And Kevin was just, in a sense, he asked the guy, he said, well, what if the city weren't agreeable to do this? He said, because in some municipalities, there might not be an additional municipality to apply, or they might not agree to it. He said, well, if the city doesn't apply, you can't get the money. So, it sounds like everybody is okay with it. It sounds like it's a process that's been done several times.
The fiscal court has agreed, and the company has agreed, and they're more on the hook more than the city is. The city's not really on the hook, except to be in that, in they own. Be in that.
It's a win-win.
Any other term but that. Good.
It looks like that they put on here that they're gonna have 30 jobs. It's on this one, it says 30 jobs, so.
They've already hired 14.
So if we're just on the hook to get the application in, I'll make the motion.
Motion by Judy, do I have a second? Second by Farmer. Discussion?
I'm sorry, I have a copy if anyone would like to review it for reading.
Poll the members, please.
I don't read German.
Barnes.
Aye.
Judy.
Aye.
McCormick. Pruitt.
Aye.
Tipton.
Aye.
Trimble. Wilson.
Councilman Trimble, item number 8.
Thank you.
Second reading of ordinance 7-2013, setting the 2013 property tax rate.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second to Judy. Discussion?
I'd like to, at least ask again to leave the real property tax instead of using the compensating rate. Let our taxpayers be compensated a little bit and leave it alone. That's, our real property here is a little less than 360 million, where the tangible property is less than 50 million. So the money,
We don't have that luxury, but this is said by the Department of Local Government.
we do not have to change it. We do not have to go up. We can leave our rate the same as it was last year. We do not have to change it. How could it have gone down? I mean, we can,
Actually, with the tangible, you're going down 1.6.
yeah, but that only affects less than $50 million. We're going up 4% on 300.
You're looking at 0.3 of a penny.
That doesn't mean anything to you, does it?
Well, it means more than a 3% increase on the garbage tax, which on a $50,000 piece of property, this will amount to $100.50 a year, and the 3% on a minimum water bill is $2.76. So it's half what you propose.
At least I saw something from that. I see something and I know what they're doing. That's pretty good.
Okay.
Here, I don't know how this money's spent, and I think there's other people out here in the audience that would like to speak too, and I believe we better give them that chance.
Okay.
Well, I have a question while
Sure, go
we're
ahead.
waiting on whoever to come forward. I was asking Laura just a little bit earlier, since I'm new to this process. Does anyone know what the large increase in tangibles was from 2012 to 2013?
The tangible rate got out of line way back.
No, not the rate. I'm talking about the actual assessed amount.
Well, that's just inventory that's turned down.
Just inventory.
Yeah, it's turned in. And that's the numbers that's supplied to us by the PBA. And we supply these numbers by the PBA has to Department of Local Government. They compute these on a formula, and it's set the statute, state statute, and that's what they come back with.
Now, I've had phone calls, as maybe others around here too, and people were very receptive to the idea of leaving it alone. Nobody said lower it. That's funny, I do. I say we should lower it. But if we just leave it alone this year, and our assessments on real property only decreased to $500,000, which is nothing out of $357 million, we should be able to hold our own because, as you know, we've taken the restaurant tax is now taking care of the airport, the Arts Council, other things. We've saved money. We've done what we need to do, or we've started to do what we need to do by saving money instead of just increasing that ever golden pot. And that's what, in any government organization, the more money you get, the more money you'll spend. It's an easy process. I mean, it's not your money, my money. It's just out there. It keeps coming. And I just would love to give I'd love to give the taxpayers of the city of Mount Sterling a little break, hold it the same, let them be compensated.
Well, I think if you go back and look at 1996, it was 23.8. Here it is today, 25.7.
I'm looking at 2005, it's 22.1.
Just a minute. And in the year 2000, there was a 5% discount added on. That to give the benefit to the citizens. So if you take that 5% off and go back, you've had very next to no increase in your property tax rates here.
That's not even, if you take this off, what, the 5% discount, a lot of people can't afford to take that. The taxes, where's that land in there? I don't understand
We're
that.
talking a lot of people.
And I think that's been there the whole time.
The tangible rate affects more people than the property tax. I know people that own a lot of property would rather see, a better rate on the property.
It only affects $50 million, less than.
Well, yes, but everybody that goes and buys something in this town that comes out of an inventory, it affects it. Affects everybody. If they buy anything, it affects it. Okay,
Good.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Yes, Alderman, please do.
Thank you all very much. First, I'd like to thank you all for giving the business owners a tax break on business owner here in town. When you reduce the personal property helps us out. So I'd like to thank you for that. Certainly appreciate it as a business owner here in Mount Sterling. The other thing is I'd like to make a suggestion, recommendation that we have a sign-in sheet. The fiscal court does this for all their public meetings where they have a sign-in sheet at the entry where anybody in the public can sign up to speak at the meeting. And of course, if your name's not on that when the business starts, then you don't get to speak. But that's worked out really well for them. And I was here at the last meeting, and I counted at least 6 individuals that wanted to speak and address the council and were unable to do so because they weren't on the agenda. So that's just a polite recommendation. The other thing is the rates. I mean, we can look at the rates. The rate has went up significantly for the past 5 years on real property in the city of Mount Sterling. Last year was a significant increase. The year before that was also fairly significant. I was on a conference call with the Department for Local Government just the other day, actually, and while they are required by statute to compute the rates for some of the special taxing districts, you're not required to accept their rates. In other words, you have full control. You can set any rate that you would like. You can choose higher than their rates. You can choose up to the state statutory limit. You can also choose the same rate is what they suggest. You can choose last year's rate. You can roll back the rate to a lesser rate. I'm very favorable with Mr. Pruitt's recommendation to the board to reduce the rate to give homeowners in the city a tax break. My wife and I, we own property in the city, and every year our taxes go up, and they're supposed to be coming down. When I meet with PVA, they say, well, your taxes should be coming down because our county assessments and the assessments are going up. And when the assessments go up, the rates are supposed to come down. We're supposed to get a break as taxpayers, and we're not getting that break. I say it's because of fuzzy math and miscalculations, and I believe that we have some facts to support that. I'm also here on behalf tonight of the Citizens for Fair Taxation of Montgomery County. Quite a few business owners, property owners, and other concerned citizens are part of our nonprofit group, or a grassroots group that started earlier in the year, actually. And I started researching this issue in 2009. It started affecting my pocketbook as a homeowner, and I know that it affects a lot of our tenants that rent property from us, because whenever there's a tax increase, their rent goes up to compensate for that. So everybody pays. You say with the personal property, it affects everybody. Well, I would argue that the real estate property tax also affects everybody. About a third of our community rents, and they indirectly pay that portion of their tax. They pay their share just like those of us in the room that own homes. So that's all I'd like to share with you tonight. I appreciate your all sincere consideration. Thank you very much.
Mr. Dennison, you have a little dispute going with a developer, is that correct?
With a who?
With a developer over some streets.
Getting a blacktop
Uh-huh.
in the city,
Yeah. Well, see, the city of Mount Sterling looks like going to have to take up this cost.
Okay.
That's a $50,000 expenditure.
Okay.
You think we should do that at fair taxation?
Yeah, I think so, absolutely. I mean, did you all have a bond on the streets to cover that?
Okay.
I think you should have a bond to cover it.
Well, apparently there is not, so not enough to cover it. So, we're going to have to do this improvement for the development where your property is, which, by the way, if you pay taxes, your taxes that we receive off that, it would take you 50 years to pay it. Not a good investment. But we're doing it because it's the right thing to do. Now, some people could say that's not a good way to spend tax dollars. Okay.
You think raising the taxes with $2.9 million cash in the bank is a good decision?
Do what?
Do you think raising taxes when there's $2.9 million in reserves the city has, do you think that's a good decision?
I don't know where you came up with that number, but you...
Ms. Burton provided me with those.
Okay, well, let me tell you what's in that number. In that number, sometimes a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. In that number, there is road aid, which can only be used to surface existing roads at $109,000. There's, at the time I think you asked the request, there was like $160,000 in restaurant, hotel, motel money. That can only be used for one thing, and that's for tourism and for recreation. We can't even put it in a general fund to write a check out of it. There was a healthcare fund, which we use it, by the way, that saves the city about $45,000 a year in premiums on the healthcare cost of $6,900 some. We've got a fire department account that is used to finish up the fire department down the street. We've got money in there for Manny Lee. These monies are all earmarked. These monies are not excess funds. These monies are not something that we can go out here and use. So actually it gets down to about 2.4 million. All right, now out of that let me educate you here a little bit tonight. That 2.4 million already this month, we are obligated to about a 400,000 of that's going to go out here. So you're looking at about a $2 million surplus that we have. According to the accountants that do our business, we should have a 4 to 6 month surplus.
That's correct.
All right? That's not quite there. That $2 million is not quite there because we got a $6 million budget. So we are about $1 million short of where idealistically we should be. Now, does that answer your question?
I believe that $2 million in the bank, I think that's a substantial amount of money, considering the budget of $6 million.
Okay, all right. Good. Go to West Liberty and ask those people what a reserve would have been worth back last year. Yes, ma'am.
Mayor, I'd like to remind the court, city council, that,
Pick your poison.
as I said at the last meeting, the industrial authority is governmental by statute. You all do fund us at $45,000 a year. And if you remember seeing our budget, until we have, and our budget is subsidized by land sales, which we haven't had any for 2 years. Now, we will sell the Vogelsang building this year, and that will help. But the industrial authority, which is a tax creating entity, we may get your taxes, but we also create payroll tax. That's our job, and property taxes and other taxes. And we're going to need some subsidizing in the future, I promise you. If you want to maintain, and if you go to any community, as I've told you before, and you don't have an industrial authority, you have a community that's not growing.
I sit on a board that people apply for funds for to do certain projects last week. And I heard a gentleman get up and talk about his community and the fact that they didn't keep up with the times and they didn't keep progress going. Now let me tell you something, progress keeps your taxes down, keeps your property taxes down. This man said it had gotten so bad in his community that the only thing they had left was a pizza restaurant. He said, we don't even have a place that we can go get breakfast anymore. We have no services. And he was there, and to get some money for a park was a huge, huge thing for this community. Is that where we want to go? Is that what we want? All right, poll members, please.
Ballard.
No.
Barnes.
No.
Judy. McCormick.
No.
Pruitt.
No.
Tipton.
No.
Trimble.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
5-3.
Okay, we don't have a tax rate.
Can I make how would you go about amending this tax rate to reflect last year's real property rate? Can I not make a motion
I have no idea.
for, you don't know,
I
okay.
don't know. I mean, you had this is
We had a first reading of and
and this is your second reading, so.
we voted that down, so now we need to come up with a tax rate.
And you have to have a first reading and a second reading.
I think what we've just done, 4 or 5 years down the road, we're gonna be talking about we need a tax increase because we're falling short. This is just a little bit right now, but down the road, 15 years, it means a whole lot. I think we cut our nose off to spite ourselves. I don't like tax rates, increases anybody else. But I'm trying to think down the road what's the best for the city, and cutting it now looks good, we've cut it, but it snowballs down the road with everybody else's insurance, everything else is going up. We're gonna be caught short-handed down the road and say, oh, we're gonna have to raise taxes. Where we could recommend by the rates given us, which are kind of projecting down the road where we should be, and I think we've hurt ourselves.
Or we're gonna have to run city government more efficiently and live within our budget,
But
which is also, we've raised this over a nickel in 5 years. A nickel.
this budget is, I know you think there's a lot of fat in there, but I'd like to see it. It's the things, the big things in there is what we have no control over, insurance, fuel, what everybody's,
Retirement.
and it's getting ready to take another big leap going up.
Oh, yeah, next year you're gonna see something else.
Yeah.
And, I think this is a serious mistake. You know, I just,
It sounds good now, but I'm afraid down the road it's gonna be a bad mistake.
I'm in agreement with leaving it flat for right now. Let's give it a year and see what it does. But at the end of next year, if we are hurting, and if David Charles and his men aren't still putting people in jail every day for dealing drugs in this town, and they need more money, I'll be the first one to stand up here and yell it out. We're gonna double the tax rate.
but the only problem with this,
Sure, it won't probably get much cooperation, but I'll be glad to get it done.
the only problem with this, though, is that this tax rate goes back to what it was this year. That's where they started. So this is lost forever.
Correct.
You know, Sandy Romanesco out here,
But we can make it up in the future if we see that it's.
No, we can never make up this cut.
you can't never.
No, this cut's gone from now on.
It's forever.
You know,
It's increased. You know, if every taxing entity lives that way, that's wild. That's just unbelievable to me. You know, if you don't take it from the taxpayer, guess what? They get to keep it forever? No, they'll spend it somewhere else. But if we don't take it from the taxpayer, we lose it forever. That's a heck of a way to, I don't understand that. Do not understand that.
Well, if we've been taking the 4% rate, taking a higher rate, I can understand it, but we did not. We took the compensating rate. It's just like Rita, her retirement's gonna be affected by this. It's coming. So down the road, 3 or 4 years, she's gonna get cut in her retirement.
You've threatened before and it hadn't come, maybe.
Well,
I don't think so.
let
I
me
don't
tell you-
agree with
let me- Let me tell you what's coming at you next year.
Oh, please.
The city is going to be liable for $5,052,000 shortfall in the retirement fund. So we want to cut here, is that what we want to do?
That's what we said we were going to do.
I'm just looking 3 years in a row, we left it flat, 22.1, in 2006, raised it 21. We dropped it actually to 21.7, then dropped it again in 2007 to 21.1, and then raised it incrementally to 21.4. So if that money's lost and we can never get it back, why did we reduce it in the first place?
I don't understand the formula, but it's,
I don't think that we can regain it today.
Mr. Mayor, since we voted this down, where are we now?
we don't have tax rate. And if we go back and do another tax rate, we have to do 2 readings. It has to go back twice. This is not a good move, folks. Not a good move. Okay, Mr. Tipton, item number 9.
Second reading of ordinance 8-2013, amending the ordinance number 9-02 relating to the prohibited activities during the court day of theft. We discussed this last month, so it's a very good thing.
Do we have a second? Second by Barnes.
Does this include fish and everything? That's fine with me, but it includes everything? Fish,
Well,
everything?
I think it's primarily to include, I think it's the sale of animals
Any- okay.
and bringing any animals down there. So
All right.
I think so. Because lots of people bought those little turtles that died.
It says reptiles, and I don't know if it says amphibians or whatever, but, oh, don't they have fish in a bag or something?
Yeah,
I
fish in the bag and the little turtles, those died next day. So I don't want to see that happen.
Before you get them home.
Well, reptiles is mentioned.
Okay.
I think
Have a second.
reptiles were, because some people take snakes.
Doesn't-
Second. Okay, all the members, please.
Ballard. Barnes. Judy. McCormick. Pruitt. Tipton. Trimble.
Mr. Dennison. You're on. Okay. All right, anything from council? Don't forget begin at 9 o'clock in the morning. There'll be a check presentation to Maysville Community College. And 7 o'clock tomorrow night, we have a joint meeting with the fiscal court, and that will be upstairs in the conference room.
What's the joint meeting?
7 o'clock.
Tomorrow night?
Tomorrow
What's
night.
the joint meeting concerning?
The joint meeting is meeting with the county to see if we can work something out on responsibilities for planning and zoning.
Is planning and zoning gonna be there?
No.
Why would they not be there? They
This
don't
is
want
a workshop, but we're gonna get everything goes in.
Right.
Don't we need somebody to explain it to
We were
us?
there the other night planning and zoning, and this is the best way to go.
All right, hearing no further comments, I declare this meeting